Locals are furious with us immigrants.
Well, most people are actually very welcoming to foreigners, but we do get quite a few complaints and comments about us gringos.
So today we're going to tell you the top 10 reasons why locals think expats are ruining life for everyone else.
And make sure you stick around until the end because we hear the number one reason all the time.
Your life abroad will be so much better if you learn the local language, which is why we're really excited to talk about Babbel, today's sponsor.
When we first moved to Cuenca, our Spanish was seriously lacking. We had a hard time communicating. It's a really good thing we had each other because I was better with the comprehension, but my vocabulary was bad, and JP had the vocabulary, but he got really confused with context.
We really struggled in the beginning, and sometimes we still do, but Babbel has really helped us so much. Plus, it's a great way to learn and practice together. Yo tengo mucho hambre, Emilia. ¿Quieres ir a cenar?
Sí, tengo mucho hambre también. ¿Qué quieres comer?
Yo quiero ceviche.
Muy bien, vamos. I like that Babbel prepares you for real-life conversations. They have courses about travel, business, relationships, and right now we're working on the course about talking on the phone because we still struggle with answering the phone and speaking in Spanish.
Babbel is one of the top language apps in the world, and it's been scientifically proven to help you start speaking a new language in just 3 weeks.
They have a few different subscriptions to choose from, including Babbel for Two, which makes a great gift for yourself and a friend or loved one, so you can start learning and practicing together.
Get 70% off right now for you and a friend by clicking the link below.
And let us know in the comments what language you want to learn.
And now for the top 10 reasons why locals hate expats, starting with number 10, and that is they don't learn the language.
We get this question a lot. Can I move to Ecuador without learning the language? And well, you can, but it is not going to make life easy for you. And it's also pretty disrespectful to the locals.
Yeah, if you're going to live in another country, it's disrespectful to learn the language. I know a lot of people who live in the U.S. feel that way about other people who move to the U.S. Well, these other countries, they feel the same way. They feel like if, especially Americans who are notorious for speaking only one language, if they're going to move to their country, they should learn the local language.
Plus, it's hard for them to communicate with us when they're trying to interpret whatever we're trying to say in our home language instead of trying to use Spanish. And they're really appreciative when you do try to speak Spanish.
It also really limits your experiences and your ability to integrate into the local culture. It's harder to make friends too and just feel like you're part of the community.
Number 9 is that they drive up the prices. And there is some truth to this, especially in the expat hotspots. Some landlords and service providers charge more to us gringos.
Yeah, and we get criticized in our comments because we encourage people to negotiate and to pay the going rate. Don't just overpay because it seems cheap to you. And the criticism is because, well, if we can afford to pay more, we should. But there's a really good reason why we say you should pay the going rate.
Yeah, it can cause a lot of animosity with the locals because it is driving them out then. They're not able to afford those same houses or use those same service providers.
Yeah, because some of the service providers and landlords especially are upping the prices for the expat community, and then people are being forced out of their homes where they've lived for generations sometimes. They're not able to afford services like haircuts or drivers or any other type of service that they may have used in the past. Now those people raise their rates because they know the expat community will pay that.
This is especially true in Mexico City. It's been all over the news about gentrification and the locals being driven out of their neighborhoods, places that they've lived in for generations. And it's really frustrating. I understand that completely. It's so important that you understand how much things should cost and that you barter and really fit into the culture. Again, the culture is not to come to another country and just overpay.
Number 8 is they think everything should be cheap.
Yeah, some people come to their new home country and they're so paranoid that they are going to get scammed over pricing that they think every single price is way too high and it is all gringo pricing, and that is just not the case.
This is the flip side of number 9, where everybody overpays for everything. And number 8, everybody thinks they shouldn't have to pay anything. And there is a going rate for things, and you need to pay the fair market value for products and services. Keep in mind that sometimes when those products are imported from another country, they may be more expensive than what you're used to paying back home for the same thing because of all the import taxes and the shipping cost to get those items here.
Number 7 is that they live in an expat bubble, meaning they only hang out with other expats They only eat at expat-oriented restaurants. They all live in the same little small area and only intermingle and do gringo-related activities or touristy activities. They don't do anything with the locals.
Yeah, the locals feel like they're just there to recreate their home country in another country, and they really don't appreciate that. They feel like you're there maybe just to take advantage of the lower cost of living or the higher quality of life, and you don't really have any intention of integrating into the local culture or becoming a contributing member to society.
And that is so sad because you miss out so much by staying in your expat bubble.
Number 6, they think the rules and laws do not apply to them.
Yeah, just because you're going to another country does not mean that you can misbehave and just ignore all the local laws. Does not work that way, and you can get yourself into a lot of trouble.
Some countries have pretty strict laws against freedom of speech. If you criticize the government or political figures, you could go to jail. Those rules apply to foreigners too, not just the citizens.
I was reading that Mexico has been really cracking down on the party culture because they don't want that image and they don't want people coming to their country and just getting so drunk that they are falling down in the streets.
We got a comment recently on a video that said, "I'm from the US, does that mean I can overstay my tourist visa when I visit Ecuador?" No, it doesn't. You have to obey the laws. The rules apply to everyone the same. Doesn't matter where you're from, they have rules in place and we are all responsible for following them.
And if you don't, you're going to make the locals really angry.
Number 5, they act superior.
Yes, unfortunately, we've met some people who come across as really arrogant, patronizing, and cocky, which makes the locals and us feel very uncomfortable. And it's especially tough on Ecuadorians because they are a sweet, gentle, non-confrontational people.
Some expats are unfortunately very disrespectful to individuals and service providers. We've heard stories from some of our friends who provide services here in Ecuador, and I gotta say, some of them are just so embarrassing, it just makes me embarrassed.
Number 4, they complain about the culture. And yes, culture shock is real and it can be painful.
Different countries have different ways of doing things, and the locals expect us to learn those ways and adapt to them. And if we don't want to, then we should just go home. And I can't say I blame them for feeling that way.
Yeah, it's so important to try to integrate, to get used to the cultural differences. With time, you might embrace those cultural differences and even grow to prefer them. I know we have.
That leads us to number 3, which is they want to change things. They don't like the culture, so they want to change it.
This is a big fat no. We have met some immigrants that come to another country and they think that those businesses should adapt to the way that they did things in their own home country, and that is completely freaking ridiculous.
You cannot expect a company or a service provider in another country to know how every other country does it and adapt to that country's way of doing things. You're in their country, you need to adapt to their way of doing things.
Number 2 is nationalism, and this has nothing to do with how immigrants behave. They just aren't from here.
Some people just do not want foreigners in their country. They don't want them changing the culture or getting special treatment or using their public services. It's a pretty small percentage of the population, but it is happening globally.
Number 1 on our list is that they call themselves expats and not immigrants, and we get this complaint a lot. We totally understand that this is a very sensitive subject to some people. It is considered a double standard, also a term of imperialism or colonialism.
We use the word expat primarily because our channel and our videos and our website are all about leaving your home country and moving abroad. And the term for that in English is expat, which is short for expatriate, or the person who moves abroad is an expatriate. And that's just the word that is used in English. Once you move to another country, then you become an immigrant in that country, which is why we're immigrants in Ecuador. We're fine being called that. However, the Ecuadorians don't ever call us that either. They usually just call us gringos. In Ecuador, that's a term of endearment. They don't really use the word foreigner here, or extranjero in Espanol. They just call us gringos. And in Mexico, that may be considered derogatory, but it's just not here in Ecuador. And that's pretty much how we're referred to here by the Ecuadorians. Also in the US, if you do a search for like leaving, moving abroad, the term most people use is expat, like expats in Ecuador or expats in Mexico. They want to find that information about moving to those countries. They don't often search, at least not as much, for like Mexico immigration. because a lot of times in the US, when you search that term, you find out about people who are moving from Mexico to the United States or Canada, and that is not the results those people are looking for. They're looking to leave the United States and Canada. So that's why we're probably going to continue using the word expat in our videos, just so that our audience can find what we do.
If you prefer to be liked by the locals, then be nice and respectful and accept that things are going to be done differently.
And try to learn the language, at least make an attempt. They really like that.
Frustration can be a two-way street.
So if you want to know why some expats are fleeing Ecuador, then check out this video next.
And remember, expat etiquette is not overrated.
Think of yourself as an ambassador to your home country and be nice to the locals so that they don't despise all of us.
And before you leave, strike that like, and we'll see you all in our next video.
Ciao.
Ciao.